He wasn't expecting company. Not today. Not with the mess. The knock came anyway. A deep, solid knock, 3 steady raps against the door. Not hurried. Not timid. The kind of knock that didn't demand, but simply was. He froze. Maybe if he ignored it, the visitor would leave. But the knock came again. His heart kicked up, not from fear but from something worse, being seen. Because the house was a wreck. He knew that. He'd meant to clean up, really he had, but what was the point? It always ended up the same way. The trash in the corner. The books stacked unevenly. The clutter of unfinished projects, half-hearted attempts at improvement. And then the drawer. That drawer. That place where everything he didn't want to face went to hide. Shame had a home there. He could picture it now. The way the handle stuck when you pulled it open. The mess inside like an old wound, half-healed but easily reopened. What if the visitor knew? What if they walked in and made a beeline for that drawer? Another knock. A voice this time. Gentle, familiar. "Hey, I know you're in there." He exhaled slowly, squeezing his eyes shut. He knew that voice. Of course it was him. The one he both wanted and feared to see. Jesus. Not in a dream, not in a sermon, not in some abstract way, here. Now. Standing at his front door, waiting to be let in. His hands were cold as he reached for the doorknob. He hesitated. What if he's disappointed? What if he notices the mess? What if he walks straight to the drawer? The questions churned, but somehow he turned the handle anyway. The door swung open. And there he was. Not glowing. Not floating. Not carrying a clipboard or a list of failures. Just Jesus. Brown-skinned, eyes steady and kind, hands at his sides, wearing something simple. He looked like he had all the time in the world. He stepped forward slightly. He didn't peer over his shoulder, didn't scan for the mess, didn't look past him at the drawer. He just smiled. "Can I come in?" The table. His voice caught. Yeah, come in." He moved aside and Jesus entered. For a brief electric moment, he braced himself. Any second now, Jesus would notice. The half-eaten food on the counter. The piles of laundry. The faint smell of dust in the air. Or worse, he would see the drawer. Would he go for it right away? Would he sigh, shake his head, ask why it was still there? But he didn't. Jesus walked right past the mess, past the clutter, past the shame drawer, and into the small kitchen. He pulled out a chair, sat down, folded his hands on the table, and waited. That was it. Not judging, not lecturing, just here. Jesus tilted his head slightly. "Aren't you gonna sit?" A lump formed in his throat. He didn't know what to do with this. He had been so sure that Jesus would come in like a spiritual inspector, clipboard in hand, marking every failure. But instead this. A seat at the table. Slowly, hesitantly, he sat across from him. The silence stretched. Not awkward, just different. Jesus studied him for a moment. Then softly, "How are you?" Not "Why are you like this?" Not "When are you going to get it together?" Not "Let's talk about your drawer." Just "How are you?" And suddenly the tension cracked. Because that was real. He had spent his life waiting for people to notice him, his work, his efforts, his offerings. But Jesus had walked in and skipped all of that. Jesus wasn't looking for a performance. Jesus was looking for him. The drawer. Minutes passed. Maybe more. He talked. Jesus listened. Not rushing. Not skimming. just present. And then, without pressure, without force, Jesus glanced toward the other side of the room, toward the drawer, not accusing, not demanding, just noticing. A pause. Then he looked back at him. "We'll get to that." A nervous chuckle. A nod. Jesus smiled. "Let's eat first." And that's how it began. Not with a cleaning spree. Not with a lecture. Not with shame. But with presence. Jesus had come to be with him. And they would go from there.